Guys, thank you so much for coming out to the latest edition of the Berlin Startup Sales Meetup. My name is Curtis. Thank you again. I mean, I know it's an amazing day outside, so that's some tough competition, and we got a nice turnout here today. Who here is visiting for the first time? Hands up. Awesome, most people. That's really cool. So we're actually trying something very new today. We've never done it before. As you probably know, today is all about books, and specifically sales books. And the reason behind that is basically this. There are a lot of books out there about sales. In fact, I went on Amazon today and I searched in the book department for sales, and there are 571,000 results that came back. So if you read one book a week, you can get through it in about 10,000 years, give or take a couple centuries. So obviously not possible for one person to ever do. And to be honest, most of them are probably not worth reading anyway, right? So it's really hard to kind of figure out which ones are worth the time. So the idea behind today was basically to take a handful of speakers who have read interesting books recently, because there are a lot of really great sales books out there that have great nuggets of just interesting pieces of knowledge, methodologies, tactics that you can use that you can apply in your everyday business. And we've got 4 brave volunteers here who have actually read books recently that they found really useful, and they're going to try and summarize those books today for the rest of the group. And we're going to try and do it in about 5 minutes per book. So each of these is about a 200-page book, I think, and we're going to do our best to see if we can distill the main idea down to about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes with questions. So I hope that everyone's going to leave today with some interesting ideas that'll be actually useful in whatever sales that they have to do in their job, or at least some inspiration. And if not, I guess there's pizza, right? With that, I'm going to hand it off to our first speaker, Dominic.
Hello, so the book I read was The Big Question Mark, and you'll find out why in a second. So I just want to have you picture the year 2009. It was just the financial crisis, and you're the manager of a company, and you're told that you're supposed to hire a sales rep. And you know that it's really hard for sales reps right now during that time, to make any business-to-business sales. But there is a group out there that is performing just as well as before. So it seems like they're unaffected by the financial crisis. So I wanted to ask you, I'll give you 3 applicants who you would hire just intuitively. So first we have Phil. Now Phil builds strong advocates. He's very generous in giving time, and he gets along with everyone. The second one is Mitchell. Now Mitchell is hardworking. He doesn't give up easily. He's self-motivated, and he's always interested in feedback to do his job even better. And then lastly, we have Alex, who always has a different view when talking to prospects, loves the debate, and pushes the customer. Now, could I have a hands up for Phil? No. 1, 2. Mitchell? More, all right. And who would take Alex?
Is she here today?
No, unfortunately not. All right, so the reason I haven't told you the book title is because it probably would have biased your decision here right now. So the book I'm trying to bring forth is The Challenger Sale by Mathew, Dixon, and Brent, Adamson. And generally, the book is about the results of a huge study that was conducted by the CEB, the Corporate Executive Board. And so what they asked themselves is, who are these sales reps out there in the economy that are doing so well, that are performing so well compared to the others? And so they investigated what makes such a good sales rep so good. See, I told you. The study was huge, so it had 6,000 sales reps from over 90 companies, and the companies came from all kinds of different branches of business. And the main finding they came up with is that you can actually categorize sales reps into 5 distinct categories. So we have the reactive problem solver, we have the relationship builder, which would have been Phil, we have the lone wolf, the hard worker, which would have been Mitchell, and then of course we have the challenger. And the hypothesis they wanted to actually show is that it's common to sales knowledge that relationship builders perform quite well, because more relationships would actually result in more sales. But the result was completely opposite. So the relationship builder was actually the poorest performing category of sales rep, and the challenger was the strongest one. So for the rest of this small talk, I'll just focus on that. So what makes the challenger so good? What makes them sell? So this is the most important point that I took from the book, is that the challenger teaches something new and valuable to prospects, something that the prospects or the customers did not know before. The other thing, the second trait, is that the challenger tailors sales pitches to resonate with the decision maker's pain points. I think this seems fairly obvious. But the third one is nice again, that it takes control of the discussions around pricing, and this relates to the first trait, that it challenges customers' thinking around the problem. And where this is pretty abstract and we really don't know what to do with this, I thought I would introduce you to the sales pitch as challengers should perform or do it. So when a challenger goes out for a sales pitch, he'll approach it in 6 steps. First, he'll go to the company and present the warmer. The warmer is just you presenting the pain points of the company or of the business in general. So things both sides will know, but you're trying to establish trust. You're trying to show that you've done your homework and so on and so forth. Then the most important step in this sales pitch is the reframe, where you actually take the pain points and try to look at it from a new perspective, where you can show something to the prospect or to the client or customer that they didn't know before. So that they're, for example, losing lots of money due to a certain way they're processing their goods and so on and so forth. Now with this insight, you can show them, okay, you're losing money. Then you try to show them how much they're losing, so you try to rationally drown them. You show them tables, charts, all the data you have to really make them feel, okay, oh, this is really hurting my company. And the fourth step, you want to actually make them feel the pain. I mean, a lot of people will say, yeah, this is true for a lot of companies, but not mine. My company is different. So you actually want to individualize the sales pitch to such a degree that the customers almost feel embarrassed or a feeling of shame, thinking, oh my God, I am actually losing this money right now during the sales pitch. Then at the lowest point of the customer, you turn it around and you show them a new way. How can you get out of this? But what's crucial here is you still make no mention of your own business solution. You don't make any mention of your own company. You try to show them that they have to adjust their way of behavior rather than just buying a different product. But of course, you're supposed to frame this new way in a way that, or in a manner that your own company is the perfect solution to them. And this is then the last step, that you show them, okay, you have these gaps, you're making these losses, and due to my company, you can actually solve this instantly. Yeah, thank you very much.
Any questions for Dominic?
Anyone?
I've got one.
Sure.
For the challenger pitch, right?
Yes.
What would you say is the biggest difference between that kind of 6-step process versus, for example, the relationship builder's approach that would be the more kind of conventional salesperson?
I think the relationship builder will probably stop at, so if we look back at the 6 steps, let's go. So the relationship builder, first of all, this is how it's described in the book at least, is that he will first start out with like 5 slides about himself, who he is, what the company does,
right,
what their product is, and so on and so forth. It's not about your customer, your prospect. It's not about how can I help you, but it's rather about look at us, we're awesome, and that's why you should choose
right,
us, me especially. So I think that's the biggest difference between a challenger approach to sales pitches and a relationship builders.
The other thing I noticed, which is kind of interesting, is that you don't have, in this process, you don't have like a discovery phase, right? You don't have that kind of typical part of a sales process where the salesperson's going to ask 10 questions about, your role, what are your biggest pain points, what are the things that keep you up at night, or whatever questions they want to ask.
Okay,
and
yes.
That's one thing that's also, that's not so much part of this, right?
No, not at all. You actually tell them,
yeah,
we know your problems,
right,
but we know problems that you don't know of.
Right.
So it's not just about knowing their business well. It's about knowing more than, so you're actually teaching them something about their own business, which
right,
they weren't aware of before. So I think that might also be a huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes.
I was just wondering, wouldn't it be a case for the relationship builder and the challenger in two different times. So in 2009, when everyone was at war, when you had to get your sales in because your companies were dying all around you, the challenger is the perfect role. But in a period of sustained growth, when there's a lot more, where it's a lot more warmer and there's more on relationships, that the relationship builder would be the better option.
So they actually checked for this because they had the same question. They said, okay, now the challenger's shining in times of financial crisis. What about 10 years after? I don't know, we're not there yet, but what about in the time afterwards when things stabilize? And they actually saw that the challenger is consistently the top performer of these 5 categories. Not saying that there aren't relationship builders that are also top performers, but the percentage is very, very low.
Okay.
So I think of the entire sample size, they only had 7% top performers of relationship builders, but a huge margin of challengers. So I think over 30% even.
Okay. Any other questions? No, we're good? All right. Thanks so much, Dominic.